You are now at the Roundtable with Lenny S, Maya the Brazilianaire, and Big Lite.
Okay, everybody, on with the show!
Take a seat and tune in.
Yo, what up? It's Elliott Wilson. Guess where I'm at? The Roundtable with my peoples, Lenny S, Maya the B, and Big Lite. You know what they say around these parts, don't shrink that screen. Alright, peace.
Yeah, there we go. Coming up in the building, the Roundtable Live.
Yep.
We got Elliott Wilson in the house.
Yeah.
The survivor of the magazine wars.
I know.
Still got his head
I'm like
intact.
the
Still
Puffy
writing.
and shit of hip-hop.
Yeah, sure.
Big E.
Okay, you know what I want to ask you?
Yeah.
While at the source,
Yeah.
what was it like there with Benzino and Dave Mays? Was the competition
Well,
starting or?
the era that I was in 96, 98, Ray wasn't involved with the magazine.
Okay.
He was Dave's boy, but he had his own label thing popping. I think it was Surrender Records, Street
Okay.
Def Jam.
Right.
So he was on his mogul CEO shit, putting dudes on from Boston, you know, type stuff. So I had left in 98, and then a year later, Selwyn Hines, who hired me, the editor-in-chief, he left in 99. And around that time is when Ray swooped in and became more involved in the magazine.
Really? And did you swoop out at that moment, or were you there?
I swooped out a year before.
Oh, you did?
It wasn't in the Selwyn left a year after,
Okay.
and then that's when Ray kind of came in.
And did you move in right as editor of XXL right away,
No,
or?
because I left in 98. I worked on the Ego Trip Book of Rap list
Okay.
with my colleagues in Ego Trip,
Right.
Sasha Jenkins,
Okay.
Chairman Mao, Gabe Alvarez, Brent Rollins. Worked on that book. So I drew myself right into that, and then by the time we had finished creating the book, I got the job offer to take over Double XL. And
Okay.
Double XL back then, you know, the irony is that it wasn't doing that great back then. It was like the third or fourth
Right.
magazine. You still had Blaze and Rap Pages and all these other magazines, and The Source was here and Vibe.
Right.
And a lot of cats was going to the internet back then, but
Right.
back then, you know, those internet companies ended up not surviving. And it's funny now how it's come back behind now, where the internet is what's popping now.
Do you feel like the quality of XXL has suffered at all since you've left?
No, I mean, it's hard for me to judge. I mean, a lot of my peoples are still there, you know, and I got respect for Daquan Thomas.
Right.
You know, he's a good dude.
From King Magazine?
King Magazine. He's now the editor-in-chief for Double XL. I would never discredit. I think that's what people expected, because like when I left the Source and I went to Double XL, I was like,
went in?
fuck
Yeah.
the Source. They suck. But I can never say XXL is not good or
Great
anything like
magazine.
that. And a lot of my staff is still there. So,
Right.
you know, it's like a father shitting
Right.
on his
Tell,
kids or
tell
something.
for the average person who doesn't know, what were your
Yeah.
duties while at Double XL?
I mean, you're the editor-in-chief, so that basically means you know, besides trying to get Jay-Z on your cover, your job is to, you know, you make all the final decisions about everything. You're accountable for everything that's in the book. You know,
Right.
if somebody wants to punch somebody in the face, you know,
So
it's
it's
all your ledger.
It's actually like most artists would die to be on a magazine cover. So it's
Yeah.
true that some big artists would decline.
Well, it
or
depends
you
on what
have
your
to chase
magazine is. With Double XL, I was trying to be the biggest magazine. So there's underground magazines, you know, there's like a Complex or a Fader. You know, with XXL, I was trying to get the biggest people. So I used to have a criteria that you had to be platinum at least to get a cover. But, you know, as time went on, you know, people aren't selling records like they
Right.
used to. So you kind of have to change your
Bro,
rules.
so-
It's just basically what you feel at the right moment and timing, basically.
So
you know?
did artists ever offer to pay to be on the cover?
Yeah, but I never took any of that seriously because it's not enough paper to really
Liar.
do that.
No payola?
Well, they never made me a good enough offer.
Okay.
Like maybe if you was brokering it, we would have been.
Yeah, you know how to broke it down.
How do you decide? Let's say you have 50, Jay-Z, and let's say Kanye coming out at the same time. Everything has to be done, obviously, 3 or 4 months in
Well, it
advance.
used to be, as you know, Lenny, we used to have real release dates and records
Yeah.
would come out. But
How do you decide? How do you
No.
decide who goes on that cover?
I mean, you also have to know what your competition is doing. So at that time, I would know a lot about. I would put my ear to the street and kind of figure out what I felt the other competition was going to do, and then make moves accordingly. And I always felt my approach with thing was like with Double XL. Part of my strategy was back when it wasn't #1, is that you know the Source or other bigger magazines had to please more artists, like kind of the point you're making. I would just make more of a decision, like I want 50 right now, and then. If the other magazines were kind of stalling with negotiating, I'd be like, yo, why are you waiting for them? I'm ready to go. I'm ready to shoot this shit on Thursday. You know, I just kind of picked what I wanted at the right time, and it was aggressive about it, and it usually then fell in my favor.
But would you put all 3 of them on the cover, like 3 different covers? Like
They wouldn't
different
do
regions?
that.
No, because there's not enough strong artists. You need
No,
you're
I'm talking
doing-
about the ones he named, Kanye, 50, and
You
Jay.
want to spread them out because there's not enough stars. So you got 11 covers a year. So you want to be able to run them back to back. If you kind of do them all in 1 month, you might not have enough strong
No,
artists.
it's all
to
their
back up.
albums came out the same day, like the scenario Lenny
Sometimes
played.
you could split that. I mean, the Source
I mean, I
kinda
know
did that
I'm
in
saying
more.
Source
Yeah,
did
it
that.
would be a
at
waste.
first.
Back in the day.
Okay, let me ask you a question, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So the whole XXL, the Source, you guys were kind of like battling covers. There was a lot
Everything.
G Unit affiliations,
Interscope,
Interscope, the whole thing. How involved was Interscope actually? Was 50 Cent in, like, were they calling you like, yo, put this in the magazine, it's gonna kill him?
What it was once it got to the point where Ray made a record dissing Eminem, you know, he was running around as the owner of the magazine. He starts making records dissing Eminem, and it gets adversarial. So Interscope stops doing business with them, which obviously gives me an advantage in terms of getting them for my magazine. So it fell in my favor because at that time M was hot, and then we had already really started documenting 50 Cent heavy before he got signed to Shady. So when he signed to Shady and he put out Get Rich, thankfully it was a classic. So the momentum built.
Did that whole battle of the covers, do you think that sacrificed anything as for you as a writer, just because some people would say you were, you know, siding with Interscope and you were teaming up?
To me, I was covering the bigger artists. I felt I still did it with integrity, and I asked them the tough questions. I felt like certain breaks, I'm a big believer that if you're good and you do the right moves, then the breaks come your way. So I felt like I put in a lot of work with Double XL, and that once the Source started doing moves to sabotage themselves, I took advantage of it.
Well, that's what took y'all to #1, being with 50. 50 was the hottest artist.
It was a great magazine.
That was a great.
XXL
No, I'm just saying.
Great quality
that was the final
But that
ascension.
era when all that was happening with him being sided with y'all, being on the cover, being the biggest artist in the world.
But what it is like, though, the other side of it, I think when Lenny's trying to touch on, is that I got to put a lot of work in to get to that position where cats could say, you know what, the Source is all that, but I could roll with something else and I'll be good. You know, I had to build something that was credible enough that cats could say, I'm gonna rock with this instead. And then it was able.
We are the Roundtable.
We'll be
We'll be back. We're gonna talk about rapradar.com, y'all. Elliott Wilson, Big Lite, Maya the Beat, Big Jeff.